Hari Om. Jagat Karanam Karana Jnana Rupam Suradim Sukhadim Gunesham Ganesham Jagat Vyapinam Vishwavandyam Suresham Parabrahma Rupam Ganesham Bhajema. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to DISHA 5 of a new series, which is an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. Let us continue our revision of second chapter with the verse 26 to 38 and topic of creation in Tattva-bodha. Dr. Komal Prasad sir will guide us in this mananam. His talk will be followed by story time by Dr. Desser and teaching quiz by Srimati Neeta. Now it's shloka time, and Srimati Vidya Prabhu will explain the shloka of the day, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. Vidya Madam, please.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Para Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This shloka is taken from Guru Gita, written by sage Vedavyasa, which is a part of Skanda Purana. It describes a conversation between Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati, where she asks him to teach her about Guru and liberation. Lord Shiva answers her by describing the Guru principle and the proper ways of worshipping the Guru. Next slide, Doctor. In Sanskrit, Guru word is made up of two root words, Gu and Ru. Gu means darkness and Ru means light. So it means Guru is one who dispels the darkness. In yogic tradition, the relationship between the student and the Guru is given great importance. This shloka expresses the value of the Guru's teaching in helping to establish a connection with divinity. It is also a way of expressing gratitude for spiritual teachers for the guidance they give us for dispelling the ignorance and attaining the inner awakening. It is believed in a tradition that an individual comes into contact with such a Guru due to the good deeds performed in the previous lives. Now to come to the shloka proper, Guru Brahma. Guru is the Lord of creation. Here, one's own birth is the creative principle, having within it the potential for one's enlightenment. Guru Vishnu. Guru is the sustainer, denoting that everything in our life is the embodiment of the Guru principle, who plays a prominent part in our spiritual growth. Guru Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru is the Maheshwara, the destroyer. The difficult things or challenges in our lives manifest as Guru Devo Maheshwaraha that enable great opportunities to clear away avidya and accept everything in our life as a gift from God, with a deep conviction that the destruction leads to a great transformation. Thus, all the three complete the Holy Trinity that stand for the three stages of life. Guru Sakshat Para Brahma. Here it explains that the self-realized master is no different from the Supreme Self. He further says, if Lord Shiva is angry, it is the Guru who saves one. But if the Guru is angry, even Lord Shiva cannot save anyone. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is the most powerful part of the prayer. When we surrender to the Guru, offering our ego with gratitude, then the mystery of cosmic awareness opens up, making one realize that Guru in the human form is actually beyond the limited imagination of the thinking mind. One can seek the Guru only when we relinquish our pride, vanity, and ego at the lotus feet of the Guru. Thank you.
Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We are continuing the DISHA series, where we study the Bhagavad Gita once again, a revision study of the Bhagavad Gita with a very specific focus. This time the focus will be to look at certain verses of the Gita to see how we can draw inner strength and happiness from the Bhagavad Gita. In addition, during each of these classes, we decided to include a topic from the fundamentals of Vedanta, Tattva Bodha. And in today's class, the topic selected will be one of creation. Next slide, please. I have selected, next one. I have selected two Gita verses, Ascharyavat Pasyati Kaschid Enam. Next slide, please. Where Sri Krishna begins to talk about wonderment about Atma Vidya. After going through a few verses on Jnana Yoga or spiritual understanding to Arjuna, Krishna suddenly stopped to think of what a wonder this Atma Vidya is all about. And he says, the one who speaks about Atma Vidya is a wonder. One who hears about it is a wonder. And another thing is there are so many people who listen to it for so many years are still not able to understand it, because this is the crux in Atma Vidya. This study is different from everything else. In any other study, we are studying about some object. Here, we should not make the mistake that we are studying something else. Atma Vidya is when the teacher holds the scriptures as a mirror to study ourselves. Next slide, please. So Krishna is trying to bring about the greatness of the teacher who speaks about the Atma Vidya, the greatness of the student, because very few people come to this topic, come to Brahma Vidya, and the greatness of the subject, because it is not an object that we study, it is a subject. In the last slide, I referred it as Atma Vidya. In this slide, we're talking about as Brahma Vidya. But remember, Atma Vidya and Brahma Vidya are one and the same. And in this particular verse, next slide, please, Sri Krishna is emphasizing on Ascharya or wonder. All of us are seeking in all our activity peace, security, and happiness. Anywhere in the world, anybody has only, externally they may be seeming to pursue something else. But what we really want is happiness, we want peace, we want security. But what we really do not know is the real source is the Atma, which is always there within us. Although we are already that, we are constantly searching for something that is very intrinsic to us. And that is why the more intensely we search, the more difficult it is to find. Next one, please. And so the whole story of the Atma Vidya is very much like the story of Karna meeting Kunti during the Mahabharata war, when Kunti calls him aside and says, I have 6 sons, you know 5 of them. Would you like to know who is the 6th Pandava? And he says, yes, I would like to know. And then the answer is the one that you would like to know is none other than yourself. And this is exactly what is the experience when a person makes a discovery of Atma Vidya. And that is what Sri Krishna is trying to say, something unique about this verse. Next slide, please. Towards the end of the section, there is the transition. That whole topic now changes from Jnana Yoga to Karma Yoga. And whenever a verse begins with Atha, Atha in our tradition is given as much importance as Omkara. And Atha also has a very great significance because, next one please, you will see so many important scriptures begin with this word Atha. Can we go back to the previous one? The Kaivalya Upanishad begins with the word Om Atha Ashvalayana. And a lot of commentary goes on the word Atha, describing Atha means a prepared student. Atha here means thereafter. So there is a transition here. And these are the two words, Om and Atha, when the creator began or before Brahmaji started the creation, these two words were uttered, Om and Atha. Atha is given as much significance as Omkara. Next slide, please. You will see all the great works, that is the Brahma Sutras begin with Athato Brahma Jignasa. The Jaimini Sutras begin with Athato Dharma Jignasa. The Narada Bhakti Sutras begin with Athato Bhakti Jignasa. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras begin with Atha Yoganusanam. Next one, please. So Atha really means the beginning, just like iti means the end. The other big topic for us in today's class is about creation. Now, creation will be explained by Dr. Komal throughout. The Dakshinamurti Stotra, which is the essence of all Vedanta, in one verse, Adi Shankara describes creation. Bijasyam tarivang kuro jagadidam prang nirvikalpam punaha Māyā kalpita desha kala kalana vaichitri chitri kritam. Adi Shankara is trying to explain that creation is not something new that has happened. It was always there, but in an unmanifest form. Just like the plant or the tree was in an unmanifest form in the seed, so too this entire creation was there in an unmanifest form in Brahman, and at the right time and at the right place, it becomes manifest. And how does it become manifest? Māyā, because of this Māyā Shakti of Brahman, will execute two things, DISHA and Kala, the time principle and the space principle, and the whole variety comes on just like this, like a magician or a Mahayogi is able to manifest it. Next one, please. Next slide. Here, Brahman is described as Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. Abhinna means not different. Normally, when you create any product, when a carpenter or a goldsmith makes a golden ornament or a carpenter makes something with wood, you will have two causes. One is the material cause and the other is the intelligent cause. But Brahman is a combination. Next slide, please. Just like in the spider example given in the Mundakopanishad, Yathorna Nabis Rijate Grinnachet. The creator brings out the material from within, just like the dreamer manifests the dream. So the dream world is none other than the thoughts of the dreamer himself. And that is how Vedanta says our creation is all about. We will see details in our class today. Next one, please. Māyā has got two powers. One is the power of Vikshepa, to bring about this beautiful creation. But there is another problem, which is called the Avarana Shakti. If you see a picture of Dakshinamurti, you will see the right foot of Lord Dakshinamurti is kept on this Avarana Shakti, this Apasmara. Now, as students of Vedanta, the more we realize that I am Atma, it is through my strength this whole world has come into being. And therefore, just when I see in a movie theater, I'm always aware that what is there in the screen is just an image which is being projected in front of me. So too, if the dreamer understands that the whole dream world is none other than thoughts that manifest, and I am someone bigger than all that, then what happens? All that good or bad in the dream does not affect me. But when I forget it, like in the movie theater, I forget and I get involved, then I can be affected by whatever I see. And that is why we need to remember this all the time. Next one, please. If I forget, then I become a creature. If I remember, I become a creator. How to be a creator always? And this is told very beautifully in the next slide, in the Drishya Viveka. That is, in the Drishya Viveka, there are two Vivekas that I need to remember all the time. There is some Viveka that I need to do within me and outside me. Whenever I see any object, right now I see a wall in front of me. I can see the wall outside me, but I should remember I'm able to see the wall because of my eyes, and from my eyes I'm able to see it because of my mind, and from my mind I'm able to see it because of the Atma. Now the Viveka I do is Pratibodha Viditam Matam. In every experience, can I come in touch with the experiencer? So although I see everything outside, I'm now aware of the experiencer within me. That is Antara Drishya Vedam. Now, Bahihi Brahma Sargaya. Externally, I see the whole world But now as a Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakta, I can see it as Lord Krishna, or as a Vedantic student, I see it as existence, and existence as Sat Brahman. That means I see the whole world as Brahman. That means outside is Brahman, inside is also Atma. And if this awareness is there, all that, then suddenly I have shifted gears from being a creature in this world to being a creator. Details will be explained by Dr. Komal. Over to you, Dr. Komal.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Today, we'll be going further in chapter 2 of Gita, verses 26 to 38, and then we'll follow it by a topic from Tattva Bodha about creation. So what we saw in the initial part of second chapter is Sri Krishna teaching Arjuna, utilizing a unique method of coming down in the level of teaching, 3 levels of teaching. First, he tries to persuade Arjuna by letting him know the Atma Jnana, that's the Adhyatmika Drishti, from the philosophical level. Then he gets into Dharmika Drishti, from a moral level, why he should not grieve and why he should get up and fight. And then third, he gets into Laukika Drishti, from a practical, worldly level. What are the points because of which Arjuna should take up the battle? In the last class, we saw about the first level what Sri Krishna teaches, that is Atma Vidya. We learned that Atma is eternal, Nitya. It is the reality, Satya. It is all-pervading, Sarvagata. It is never an object, ever the subject, Aprameya. And it's never a doer, and it's not the enjoyer, Akarta, Abhokta. And it does not change. That's Nirvikara. Coming to the next level of teaching, so Arjuna gives some unique methods, because when a teacher is teaching a student, sometimes he will realize, he will get a thought that maybe the flow of teaching is not fully perceived by the student. So when Krishna gets this kind of thought, so that's when he changes gears and gets into a different level of teaching. Here he assumes, what if Arjuna thinks that Atma is just an imagination? So in that case, like there's a Kshanika Vada, it's said, like where some believe that Atma is generated along with birth and it dies along with the birth. So that's with every Jiva, there's a new Atma which is born. So what if Arjuna logically concludes to such a statement or believes as such? So that's why he says, on the other hand, if you think that one is born and one is died constantly, like by having birth, living, and then dying, and then having a rebirth. So even then, it is certain that death is inevitable after life, as it is certain that there is rebirth after death. So even if you take into that logic also, Arjuna, you shouldn't be grieving. Jatyasya hi dhruvo mrityo. Dhruvo janma mrityasya cha. That means, so once somebody takes birth, so he has to inevitably die. And he has to inevitably come back to rebirth. So even if that logic is utilized, it is not wise to grieve about somebody's death. So when somebody is born, so these are the 6 modifications: asti, jayate, vardate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, and vinashyati. It's a kind of rule of nature that even though science can prolong somebody's life, it is inevitable that somebody who is born has to die. So in the next verse, Krishna gets into another important concept of avyakta and vyakta, unmanifest and manifest. So he says the cycle of being and being manifest and being unmanifest, it's a kind of cycle. All beings remain unmanifest in the beginning, they become manifest in the middle, and after death, they certainly become again unmanifest. So, if such is the cycle, what is the lamentation? What is the grief? And why should you be worried about? Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyakta nidhanadnyeva tatraka paridevana. And Timothy spoke about wonderment. And Krishna exclaims here about like when Atma Vidya is taught, somebody who understands that, who gets a hang of that, he visualizes it as a wonder. And somebody who talks of it, particularly the guru, he talks of it as a wonder. And somebody who hears, generally the student, he hears it as a wonder. And for a majority others, someone else, indeed, who even in spite of listening frequently about this Atma Vidya, it's difficult to comprehend and they won't realize, and that itself is a wonder. And then in the last part from 31st verse to 38th verse, Krishna gets into the mode of telling Arjuna why, practically speaking, ethically speaking, why he should get up and fight. Even considering your own duty, Arjuna, you should not waver, since there is nothing better for a Kshatriya than a righteous battle. So those Kshatriyas who get this kind of opportunity should be actually happy, because the gates of heaven are open to them. And to summarize in the last verse of this segment of second chapter, Arjuna mentions one which is the take-home message for us. That's about samatvam. Sukha dukkhe samekrutva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhasya yujjasva naiva papama vapsyasi. So this is the Krishna here is talking about emotional quotient. It's not about the intelligence. It's not like any cyclist has to balance, even if he's a world-class cyclist. So there are times when he wavers, but the intelligence is about getting back to the position and going forward. This is where FIR principle comes. So the frequency of that wavering should reduce, whether it is pleasure or pain, gain or loss, victory or defeat. The intensity of your disturbance, emotional disturbance, should get lesser and lesser as you progress spiritually. So that's the FIR principle, what we have heard multiple times during our discussions. Now, coming to the Tattva Bodha topic for today is about creation, Srishti. Creation. There are many words in Sanskrit which have difficulty to be translated in English, untranslatable words, and creation is one such word. Creation, as we generally think about it, is a misnomer, because nothing can ever be created. That's called Satkaryavada in Sankhya. In thermodynamics, it's called law of conservation of matter and energy. Because creation is just manifestation of something which was potentially but unmanifestly existent. If you think of some creation, that means there should be a cause for it before it is manifest. So, and what is unmanifest is pramana agocharam. It is not perceivable through our senses. We have limited 5 senses. It just means it's not seen, not perceived by any of our 5 senses. So that unmanifest is that one which is existent but is not available for perception or transaction. Just like butter in the milk. We know there is butter in the milk, but unless it manifests by a process, we can't perceive it and we can't use it for transaction. So, extending it further, this huge cosmos should have existed in unmanifest or potential or dormant form. It's called Bijam, the seed of creation. That's the Vedantic view of cosmology. Ramana Maharshi has given us an easy way to understand the creation. Once we agree that creation, the Srishti as such is just unmanifest becoming manifest, we shouldn't be wondering too much about the process of creation, because at a certain level, the world we see around us is like a shadow. World appears as a passing shadow in a flood of light. The shadow does not deserve any special notice, analysis, or discussion. This is Ramana Maharshi's view of creation, the cosmos, the wonderment what we see around us. He says there is no detailed process of creation. As we can see in our dreams, like how long does it take to construct a house in the dreams? As soon as we get to sleep, house will be constructed, families, children, our education, old age, everything happens instantaneously. Similarly, cosmos springs into view simultaneously within the seer. But the problem is we have to satiate our intellect. People desire an explanation. What is the cause? Why it is happening? What's the explanation for the existence of the world around us? People argue that every effect must be preceded by a cause. We get caught up by this cause-effect duality. Whereas, if we logically think, any effect definitely will require a cause, but the cause is dependent on the effect. Unless the effect is manifested, we can't think about the cause. Like they say, child is the father of the man. So the cause and effect are a kind of mutually dependent couplets of mithya. Both are dependent on each other, as well as they need a substratum on which they interplay. And that substratum of this cause-effect interplay is Atma or the Brahman. So like how until we get a certain level of maturity, we need to think about an explanation to satiate our intellect. We need to think about a way of how a process of creation happened. So Shruti gives us such explanation as it is given in Tattva Bodha. So like we can just believe our Guru and surrender to the Supreme and just hang on to the rope and go to the higher level as this man you're seeing in rock climbing, or think of some struts along the way and classify them and then use them to go further. So this method of going progressively higher is called Kramasrishti, gradual creation. But for a true seeker, as Ramana says, he will be satisfied with instantaneous creation, for which he terms it as Yugapad Srishti. So what are these struts we are seeing here? So like if the Brahman, if it has to create something, the only thing it can create being attributeless is itself. Brahman can create itself. There can't be any modifications in that. So we need something else. We need to, which will give us a view that is the Māyā Shakti is required to give us this image, a mirage of creation around us. And that is explained in Tattva Bodha using 24 elements. Atha Chatur Vimshati Tattvotpatti Prakaram Vakshamaha. This is how it starts, the process of creation. So we discussed about Atma in the last sessions. That is, it's Nitya, Satya, Sarvagata, Aprameya, Nirvikara. And definitely it can't create anything out of itself because it is attributeless. So next, what next? We require a second beginningless principle, which is called Māyā. And where is it? Brahmashraya. It is dependent. It's on the substratum of Brahma. And what does it have along with it? Gunatmika, Trigunatmika, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are the three gunas of Māyā. So, depending on Brahman, being of the nature of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, these are the three qualities of nature. Māyā exists. Māyā asti. With its Avarana and Vikshepa Shakti, as earlier described by Timappa Hegde sir. Scientists for years now, for centuries, are thinking what a theory of everything. What if known, everything around us becomes known? What is the basic matter, basic stuff out of which all the subatomic particles, all this energy, mass, everything around us eventually comes forth, comes into manifestation? Because when we go into extremes of physics, general theory of relativity at macro level or quantum physics at micro level, they hit a roadblock explaining using Newtonian physics. There can't be a theory of everything with this background of Newtonian physics, where we need coordinates, where the subject is stuck to a place and everything else is measured as a distance of distance or time related to him. Our scriptures intelligently explain this basic stuff. That's the source of all forms of energy and all forms of matter, which includes all particles, molecules, and energy. And it's called causal matter. And that causal matter is this Māyā. So before this creation originated, we see there were two things, two beginningless principles. One is Atma or Brahman, and the second one is Māyā, Māyā Shakti. So some clarity about the terms here. Consciousness has two names based on the context. When the individual is being discussed, consciousness is given the name Atma. And when we discuss the universe at a macro level, the same consciousness is given the name Brahman. From microcosmic standpoint, that's Veshti, it is Atma. From macrocosmic standpoint, the Samasti standpoint, the same consciousness is called Brahman. So now both are beginningless entities. Then what are the differences between Brahman and Māyā? Brahman is non-material principle. Māyā is material principle, matter, causal matter. Brahman is nirguna, attributeless, whereas Māyā is full of attributes, saguna. Brahman is never subject to change, whereas Māyā can never remain the same. Brahman is not subject to division, akhanda, whereas Māyā is subject to multiplication and division. So in this, the krama of creation is in two stages. So initially there's a causal universe, beginningless causal universe. And in the first stage, a subtle universe is created. And after a subtle universe is created, it's like the software of creation. And then the stage 2 of creation of gross universe happens. These are the two stages of creation. Now we have to delve into what are the three gunas we talk of. Brahman does not have any attributes, whereas Māyā has three strands intertwined together of three attributes, of three faculties, sattva, rajas, and tamas. What is sattva? It's the revealing power. It's about that awareness, that cognition which happens inside. Now, mind you, we are talking about macro level. We are not talking about the micro level. We are not talking about the jiva. We are talking about the jagat. So when we are discussing this revealing power, we have to think of revealing power of the cosmos, not revealing power of you as a person, as of or as only this evolved human beings. It's the revealing power. It's the cognition or the awareness of the cosmos. And rajas is the movement, that is doing principle. Suppose like if there's a huge body of water and it is still serene, like an ocean with no movements there. And suddenly a disturbance happens and one wave forms. At the level of ocean, it makes no difference because it was water earlier, it continues to be water later. But if you have a framework, if you define a boundary in this water body and we call it ocean, then this wave will have a movement from one end to other end, from this point to the other point, a measurement, Māyā, a framework, a system, a boundary once you put, that's when these things becomes measurable. A movement gets measured. And here it is rajas, the projecting power. The third one is the wheeling power. It is the inertia, which suppresses the other two processes. Like you spill water on a surface, and the droplet you see, for some reason, water has a tendency to flow, but somehow it tries to become a clump because of the surface tension. That kind of getting together, calling it me, myself, that inertia as a separate entity, that is tamas. It's the veiling power. So these are the three gunas. These are essential gunas of the cosmos, because of which the whole cosmos, as we see it, is going to get developed. And there are 5 pancha mahabhutas. So next level of creation is tata akasha sambhutaha, akashat vayuhu, vayo tejaha, tejas apaha, adbhya prithvi. From that Māyā, Akasha was born. Subtlest. From Akasha, the next level, Vayu is born. From Vayu, fire is born. From fire, water was born. And from water, earth was born. Again, keep in mind, so it's easy to remember this way, but when we say water, fire, these are the principles, these are the subtlest elements, basic elements. These are the placeholders when we are discussing this creation of cosmos. It's not the water as we see, because we are finding a theory of everything where everything in any corner of the universe, in whatever may be the way of manifestation, including aliens if you want to include them. So it should be a generic formula for anywhere in the cosmos. So you'll have to take it in a wider definition. What is water? What is earth? Earth is the solid. If you easily you can translate it as earth is the solid, water is the liquid, and then this air is like the gaseous component, plasma, and what normal natural physics, the physical sciences does not take, is about the space. Space and time are also considered as products of Māyā, illusory creation of Māyā. That's the main difference between Vedic cosmology and modern scientific cosmology. They are coming there where they consider the space-time as an entity. But this Vedas, this Tattva tells us from those long ago, from those ages, that there's a fifth entity, fifth Mahabhuta, that's the space which is required to create this cosmos. So we saw the intertwined 3 gunas now. And from these 3 gunas, which each of these 5 elements who has this 3 gunas, the sattva component of each of these 5 elements creates 5 organs of knowledge. So what is this organs of knowledge? Here again, this is about the cosmos, not about the individual. Individual we have seen earlier when we studied at micro level, at jiva level. Here, ears, you'll have to take it as these are not your ears. What your ears say is it's called golakam, the instrument. It's like the various the sensors in your mobile phone. Sensors, there are various new sensors are available now. But what we are talking about is not the ears, not the skin of the person. It's the generic skin, which will perceive not just the vibration, but also touch. And then the eye, which is from the sattvic component of fire. From the water, the sattvic component. The tongue, that is the rasa. And from the sattva component of earth comes the grana, that's the nose. And then all the 5 sattvic components put together creates 4 internal organs, antah-karana. That is mind, intellect, memory, and ego. Mano, buddhi, chitta, and ahankara. So we have studied about mano, buddhi, chitta, and ahankara earlier. So these are the 4 internal organs. Intellect stores and retrieves memory, and mind. All these 4 put together is the mind, the antah-karana. And then coming to the rajas component, what will come from the rajas component? That's the movement. So these 3 you have to think of as knowing, doing and being. What does the doing principle do in this? So they create 5 organs of action, speech, walk. That's not just your mouth. It's the production of this vibration. It can be from any celestial object, if we can think about it that way. Hands, legs, genitals, creation, anus, that is the sink, where in a system we talk about sink, right? That's where this waste is collected, which that is these are the 5 organs of action. And all these 5 religious components put together will create 5 pranas. And these 5 pranas we see are the prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. There's a concept called systems view of life and celestial objects. So when we consider it as a system, as I said, when we put the boundary of Māyā to study anything, and as a subject you come out of that system and think about the system, there should be a way in which you put input and output. So what all can happen? What are the various ways in which the workings can happen? There is inlet and an outlet, input and output, and then the whatever you put inside has to circulate inside. It has to get distributed inside the system, and there should be a way in which you come out of the system. So this is the framework. So in essence, so these are the 19 components of the subtle body: 5 organs of knowledge, 5 organs of action, 5 pranas, and 4 internal organs. That is 15, 4 plus 4, 19. So we need to get 24 tattvas. So the last 5 are the gross elements. And how does this grossification happen? That's by a process called panchikaranam, in which each of these subtle elements get mixed up with other 4 elements in a proportionate way and causes creation of gross mahabhutas, gross space, gross air, gross fire, gross water, and gross earth. So this is the circuitry of creation. If we want to satiate our intellect by giving a way in which this cosmos is created around us, so this is how we need to study in a methodical way using 24 tattvas, using gunas. Our aim, we have to always keep in mind, is to be gunatita, which we'll hear later. To go beyond this, use these struts, not to stay there, but to go beyond and become a gunatita. So these are required up to a certain level to understand the process of creation. But in the back of our mind, we should always keep in mind that we are aiming at something at a much higher level. Science is coming to that. Science is thinking like the universe may be conscious. Baby steps towards what Vedanta has told eons ago. Then this is how Vedantic cosmology has been described to us in Tattva Bodha. Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll get into teaching quiz, which will be by Neeta. Neeta, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We will be doing the quiz of the topic is creation of Tattva Bodha, and also we will be covering verses, Bhagavad Gita verses 2.26 to 2.38. Next. Is Atma and Brahman referring to the same principle? Yes, they both are the consciousness principle. Atma is at the individual level and Brahman is at the cosmic level. Brahman is the dash nimitta upadana karanam. It is the material cause and the intelligent cause. It is the abhinna nimitta upadana karan. Abhinna means indifferent, one single one. Next. Name the 5 subtle elements that first evolved from Māyā. The Tanmatras. These are unavailable for interaction. From Akasha, we get Vayu. From Vayu, we get Agni. From Agni, we get Jala. And from Jala, we get Prithvi. These are subtle in nature. And even the Prithvi, which we are talking about every year, is not visible. It is subtle. Māyā has got 3 gunas. We learned just now, Māyā has got 3 gunas. Please name them. Gunas don't have a English word for it, but for convenience, we use it sometimes as faculty, the Shakti of Brahman or the attributes of Brahman. They are 3 in Sattva Guna, which is the intelligent cause, the faculty of knowledge, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Tamoguna is the power of inertia. Name the 5 organs through which you receive knowledge, the Jnanendriyas. The Pancha Jnanendriyas are the Shrotra, the Twak, the Chakshu, the Rasana, and the Grana. Which guna do they evolve from? Little slow, Dr. Kamal, please. The Pancha Jnanendriyas evolve from the Sattva guna of each element. These are again subtle in nature. We cannot see them. What we see is next. The golakams. What are golakams? Golakams are what we see, the eyes, the nose, the ears, the mouth, the legs, the hands. These are the seat of the Indriya, the Pancha Jnanendriyas and the Pancha Karmendriyas. And this is what we see. The Jnanendriyas and the Pancha Karmendriyas are not visible. They are subtle. Next. What are the 4 functions of the mind? The mind is one. The mind is called different names based on its functions. Like the same man can be the secretary of the trust. He can be the CEO of his company, father of a child, husband of his wife. Same way, the mind has 4 functions and they're called manas, the faculty of doubting or wavering, and even the emotions come under this. Then buddhi, the decision-making function, and chitta, the function of memory, and the last one is ahankar, the notion, the ego. From where does the mind evolve? The mind evolves from the sattvika component of all the 5 elements. The combined, all the 5 elements combined together. It's different from the Jnanendriyas, as in the Jnanendriyas come from each one element, and the mind comes from the combined of all the 5 elements. Name the 5 organs of action, the Karmendriyas. Where do they manifest from? The 5 organs of Karmendriyas are speech, hands, leg, anus, and genitals. These are again subtle in nature, and they come from the Rajoguna component of each element. Each element will give one organ of Karmendriya, organ of action. Name the 5 pranas. The 5 pranas are the vital energy, and they are 5 in nature. Again, there's one vital energy, and based on the different action it does, they are divided into 5. Prana, Vyana, Samana, Apana, and Udana. Which guna do they evolve from during creation? They come from the Rajasic component of all the 5 elements put together. The Karmendriyas came from the single one element, and the pranas come from the combined component of all the 5 elements. Next. What is panchikaranam or grossification? So far, what we saw is the mind, the karmendriyas and jnanendriyas and the pranas, they are all subtle in nature. Even all the higher lokas, they all come under sukshma shrishti. Now, for the stool shrishti, that is the gross world and the gross body which we see, the process of panchikaranam takes place, which is where the 50% of one element mixes with 12.5% of the other 4 elements, and we get the gross elements, and these give the stula sharira. Next. What or where is Brahman in all this creation? We saw, Māyā take all this part, and now where is Brahman in all this creation? Brahman is there in and through this creation. In fact, the entire universe is Brahman, only with different names, forms, and function. Like all pots are clay only. The entire Srishti is Brahman only with different names. All this happens with Brahman not taking any action nor changing. It is just a witness. Then how do we say the world is there? The world is at a lower order of reality. It has a dependent existence. Next. Why should you not grieve? This comes in the Bhagavad Gita verses that we have discussed today. Krishna says again and again from 25 in verse 26 and 27 and again in 28 he says it differently, and again in 30 he says it, sochitum na tvam harasi. Why does he say that? Do not grieve. If we have to take a single take away from this today's class, this should be that we should not grieve. This the answer. Whatever has a beginning will have an end. If we take ourselves as Atma, then we don't need to grieve. If we take ourselves as Anatma, this body, mind, then we know that the Anatma has a beginning and it will have an end. Then why are we grieving? Need to become a little more wise. And this is what we need to take away from this Vidya. Krishna says, therefore the bodies of Bhishma and Drona will also have to die. They are also Anatma. And then we should remember that death is never the end of the Atma, of a Jiva. Thank you. In this fill in the blanks, you have to fill it either with Atma or Anatma. Just take a few minutes. The body, sense organ, and the mind is Anatma. Dash and dash cannot be physically separated. Anatma and Atma cannot be physically separated. And this is where we find it hard to recognize that we are the Atma and Anatma is at a lower order of reality. Even though the dash is experienceable for transaction and has utility, it is not so real. Anatma. Answer is already given. Self-realization is claiming the dash as the self and understanding that the dash is mithya. It is claiming that the Atma is the self and the understanding that Anatma is mithya, is at a lower order of reality. I've said it 3 times just so that we can take it in. Stop looking for dash outside or within. It is the self. Atma. Atma is outside, inside, it is everything. There is no connection, a preposition connecting Atma and myself. Thank you very much. Thank you to the team of Param Vedanta and all my team, Vidya, Dr. Komal and sir. Over to you, Venkatesh sir.
Thank you, Nita, for a wonderful teaching quiz covering the entire topic of the day. Thank you, Komal sir, for an absorbing talk supported by some innovative, beautiful slides. Hope all of you enjoyed the session. We'll come back with DISHA 6 on Monday, 25th April. Before that, this Friday on 22nd April, we will study the concluding part of Bhakti Yoga. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.